Red Light, Green Light Theology.
Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome to Red Light, Green Light Theology. Today, I'm stuck in traffic. So we're going to go ahead and take a little talk here on the 99 and talk a little bit about a question that was asked and concerning the validity of Scripture. How do we know that what we read in the Bible is actually the words that we read or were written, thousands of years ago? And in order to do that, we got to take a look at the Old Testament and the New Testament. Now, there's a word that is called out there. It's called canon. And the word canon, you're going to hear me say that a little bit, but the word canon basically means a standard or rule of authoritative scripture or doctrine or laws that are compiled together. And so when you hear me say the word canon, you want to refer back to that definition. When we take a look at the Old Testament was canonized, came together. It's believed around the period what is called the intertestamental period. This was a time when Greece had invaded the region of Judea and began erecting their own gods, or bringing in their own ideas and beliefs and gods into the worship, and even forcing the people to worship their gods as well. And so they canonized or brought together their scripture, which was that of the writings of Moses, the prophets, and they canonized their Bible. Now, when we fast forward a little bit to the time of Christ or biblical times, we are given a pretty good confidence. We can be confident that what was written there as the Old Testament had been used or was being used as a form of scripture. We can see that written in the New Testament. In the New Testament, you see the authors, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Paul, quote the Old Testament. Matter of fact, to give you an example, in 2 Timothy chapter 3, 16 verses 17, Paul states that all scripture is God-breathed and inspired of God. That all scripture, he was referring to the Old Testament. He wasn't referring to the New Testament. The New Testament had not been written yet. So he was referring to the Old Testament. Now, another factor that we can throw in there as well is that Jesus himself, when you read the sayings of Christ, Christ also quotes the Old Testament. So just those little facts kind of help support that the Old Testament had been canonized and was already being used as part of a scripture or a form of scripture, at least during the biblical time. Now, when you move forward to the New Testament was canonized around 397 AD at the Council of Carthage. Now, at the Council of Carthage, they did their research and began taking a look into the letters that were being passed around or circulated throughout the church at that time, and began to ask those hard questions. How do we know that this is what was written by the apostles? And out of that council, they declared that the scriptures that were written by the apostles were divine and inspired by God, and that the New Testament was closed. No one was to add on to it, and if they did, they were to be questioned. That's why some of the later forms of the secret sayings of Christ, whether it be the Gospel of Peter or the Gospel of Mary, and some of these secret Gospels were being questioned because the New Testament had been closed, and there was other standards that were set. And we're going to talk about those standards on the second part of this discussion. And so we'll talk a little bit more about the importance of those standards, because that really sets the stage for why we can be confident in the New Testament. So the Old Testament and the New Testament, we can be confident that what was written back then is what we're written today. And we're going to pick up on that on part 2. So hey, you guys have an awesome day. Hey, don't forget, put your seatbelt on and don't text and drive. Until next time, we'll see you hopefully going a little bit faster on the 99. on Red Light Green Light Theology. Have a good one, you guys.